Hey, good morning. Welcome back. It's good to see you guys this morning. As Jackson said, we're going to jump back into our series on the gospel according to John. We had started this back in February, but then Easter kind of snuck up on us, so we had to put that on pause. And so we jumped into Holy Week, and so we spent some time looking at Holy Week. And so now we're going to pick it back up. If you missed the first part of the series, I'll catch you up real quick, okay? So we started in chapter 1 of John. Then we moved to chapter 2, and then we ended on chapter 3. So you're caught up now. No, I'm just kidding. Look, it's all on our website. And so I would recommend that you go back and look at the first 3 chapters of John, and that truly will catch you up. But John did us all a favor. He wrote something in his gospel that we can look at that tells us really why he wrote the gospel, right? And so in John chapter 20, John tells us exactly why he wrote it and what he wants us to learn from it. So in John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31, here's what he said. Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book being the Gospel of John. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So that by believing you may have life in his name. Those are the 2 themes of the Gospel of John, that we would have faith, and by having faith, you in turn would have eternal life. So no matter where you jump into the Gospel of John, as long as you know those 2 things, you're caught up. You pretty much know what's happening, all right? So as a reminder for us, though, in his gospel, John often refers to what we know as miracles, right? The miracles that Jesus did. John refers to them as signs because for him, they are simply pointers, just like a road sign is a pointer to let you know about something. For John, miracles are signs that are designed to teach us about faith, right? We go back to John chapter 20 again. So it's faith, faith, faith. Today, we're going to pick up our study in John chapter 4, and we're going to start in verses 45 and 47. When he arrived in Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him. They had seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, for they had also been there. Once more, he visited Cana in Galilee, and that once more is because John starts his gospel with the wedding in Cana, where Jesus turns water into wine. Where he had turned water into wine, yeah. So there was a certain royal official whose son lay sick at Capernaum. When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him, and he begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. So here's our first lesson today. Faith, that is life-giving faith, starts with reason, okay? So why did the official go to Jesus? Well, John told us, right? He said, when Jesus arrived in Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him. They had seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, for they had also been there. So all of these people come back from Jerusalem, back to Galilee, back to the area of Cana, and they're talking about this guy, Jesus, who did these miracles, who did some other things there. So there's some buzz around Jesus, right? This man who wants his son healed, though, is a Roman official. So pretty good chance he did not go to the Passover festival because he's not Jewish. But he hears the buzz, right? Everybody in the countryside is talking about this man, Jesus. Could he be the Messiah? Did you see the miracles he did there? Did you see the way he talked to the religious authorities? So he's hearing all of this, right? He's hearing the buzz, and maybe he didn't believe that Jesus is this man that all these people think he is, but his son is sick, so he thinks, hey, why not? Right? I'm going to go to him. I'll give it a try. You've done that before, and I've done that before, right? You hear something, and you're a little skeptical, but you think, why not? Let me check it out. So we have this miracle drug in our house. It's called tea tree oil. Any users of tea tree oil? Okay, yeah. So if you have cuts or burns or any kind of topical problem, it is great. So I'll tell you something. Maybe it's TMI, but, it's appropriate. So I got a gift for Easter. I got shingles. I woke up on Monday morning, and I thought, what bug was biting me? And it turns out it wasn't a bug bite at all. But my go-to was tea tree oil, right? So I went to the doctor, too. That's how I knew it was shingles. But anyway, so tea tree oil helped treat the topical part of shingles. Now, before God called me to ministry, though, we went to this little tiny church here in Tulsa, and there was a man there who had kind of an early online business selling Melaleuca oil. Anybody ever heard of Melaleuca oil? Okay, well, for him, it was a big deal. Now, I was put off by it because just the name in and of itself, Melaleuca oil, right? What the heck is a Melaleuca oil? Is it an animal? Is it a plant? What is that? Where's it coming from? But I didn't know it was tea tree oil at the time, so it was a branding issue. But he pushed Melaleuca oil for everything, right? Oh, you have a cut? You need some Melaleuca oil. Broke your arm? Melaleuca oil. Okay, need to polish your silver? I got some Melaleuca oil for that, okay? So he kind of oversold it, but I was put off by it. But he gave me a sample one time. And I tried it, and I thought, it's kind of legit. So I looked it up, and I found out it was tea tree oil, which seems just more reasonable to me. So I can get behind tea tree oil. I'm not about Melaleuca oil. So it was with our Roman official, though, right? He heard something. There's this man. He's this Jewish guy. Maybe he's a rabbi. I don't know. He's done some things. I'm not sure if they're true or not, but my son is dying. Okay, so I'm going to check it out, right? So he heard the stories, and he thought, let me check this out, right? What are the pros and cons if I go to this Jesus guy? So faith starts with reasoning. God gave us brains, right? He's never asked us to check our brains at the door. Faith doesn't have to be separate from reason, okay? So I would tell you that faith, and we'll see here, faith starts with reason, right? Here's why it can't just be a matter of the heart when it comes to faith. You don't live the rest of your life that way, do you? No, you hear things, you investigate things, you check them out, you turn them over in your mind. You're reasoning, right? Take the COVID vaccination, for example. I've talked to a whole bunch of people, many of you in this room, right? And there are two camps to this. I'm getting it, or I'm not sure, and I'm going to wait. But I've not talked to anybody that said, well, I haven't read anything about this, and I really don't know anything about it, but my heart tells me that I should or shouldn't get it. No, you investigate it, right? You read, you talk to other people, you process, you reason, right? So reasoning is a gift from God, right? Thinking and reasoning are key components of faith. But in the end, it still requires faith. You can't reason yourself into a relationship with Jesus, but faith starts with reasoning, right? You hear things, you investigate things, you read things, and you process them, right? So there was a man, 17th century, he was a philosopher, a theologian, and a mathematician. His name is Blaise Pascal. If you're an old school computer guy, you might remember the Pascal computer language, right? It's named after him. Well, because he was also a theologian, here's what he said. He said, you can't prove that there is a God, but you also can't prove that there's not a God, right? So either way, you are living by faith. Either way, whether you believe there's a God or there's not a God, you're living by faith. Because on both sides of that equation, you have thought through it, you've investigated it, you've reasoned, and you've landed at your decision. Both require faith, right? So no matter which side you're on. Since Easter was last week, I want to jump back into kind of the tail end of the Easter story there and look at an example of this, right? So last week, we kind of, we focused on the women going to the tomb. They found it empty. And then they went and they told the disciples, hey, he's not there. The tomb is empty. Where's his body, right? So she goes, talking about Mary, goes and tells the disciples in the upper room. Peter and John run to the empty tomb. And John got there first. And then in John 20, verses 6 through 9, here's what John wrote. Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple who had reached the tomb first, you gotta love John, right? Yeah, I beat Peter. I got there first, okay? He got there first, also went inside. He saw and believed. And then, being 100% transparent, John writes this. They, meaning he and Peter, he could say, we still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Now, that word saw, where it says Peter saw the linen strips, saw the face cloth, in Greek that word is blepo. That's the normal word for saw. John, when he wrote his gospel, he used the word thereo, and it sounds like theory, right? Because that's where we get our word theory from. It's also where we get our word theorize from. So that word theoreo really means to view attentively, to consider, to discern, right? So he didn't just see it. What John wrote is, we saw it and we started thinking about it. What is happening here? What could have happened? Because the body's not here, and yet there's the grave clothes. There's the linen strips. There's the face covering. We know we didn't take his body, we being Jesus' disciples. Where is it? So they are reasoning, right? They're thinking through it. John entered the tomb and he saw and believed. Now, this was a decisive moment for John. This was kind of a tipping point for him because he went in there, he saw the grave clothes, he saw that stuff in the tomb, he saw the empty tomb. He was reasoning, he was thinking, right? And then he said, well, there's only one explanation here. He did what he said he was going to do. He is resurrected. And the result was, as John wrote, it was increased faith, right? His reasoning led him to increased faith. So reason is a precious gift from God. We use it all the time to draw conclusions about the world behind us. That's why I said faith just can't be a matter of the heart because we don't live our lives that way. That's not the way God created us. We use reasoning in our everyday life. But here's the deal. Reason has to be empowered by grace to lead to faith. You can't just think your way into faith. There are a lot of people that know a lot of stuff about Jesus, about religion, about God, about the Bible, but are not believers. So clearly, it's not just reason, right? You get life-giving, saving faith through grace. Don't be confused by what I'm telling you today. It's still based on you are saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. But it starts with reason. But it also doesn't end with reason, right? Okay, so look at our second point today. Faith has to move beyond reason to trust. So if it starts with reason, if you use your brain, now here's where the heart gets engaged. It has to move to trust. We're in verses 47 and 48 here. When this man, talking about the Roman official, heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. Unless you people see signs and wonders, Jesus told him, you will never believe. This man is desperate, right? His son is dying, and he comes to Jesus, and he begs Jesus, hey, will you come heal my son? What does Jesus say? Sure, bro, I'm all about it. No, that's not what he says at all, right? Because it seems like it's a reasonable request, but Jesus says, you people. Now, you know from your life, right? Nothing good ever follows those two words, right? You people have lost my luggage for the last time. You people have overbilled me or got my bill wrong for the last time. You people have messed up my food order, okay? Nothing good ever comes from those two words, you people, right? So it seems a little harsh, right? It's a reasonable request. Jesus, my son is dying. Will you come with me and will you heal him? I mean, if you're a parent, you do the same thing. You do more than that, right? You do anything to save your child if your child was dying. What we see in Scripture is that frequently people come to Jesus with what seems like reasonable requests, and it appears that Jesus puts them off the first time. That doesn't seem like the loving, kind Jesus that we know, right? Hey, my child's dying. My child needs to be healed. My child needs this. Maybe later, right? We see it frequently. Jesus appears to put them off. In Mark chapter 7, there's a story of a Greek woman whose daughter is demon-possessed, and she comes to Jesus. And Jesus says, hey, it's not right to take the food from the children, he's talking about the children of Israel, and give it to the dogs. I mean, that's what he said. So not only does it say, no, I'm not going to help you, he insults her. No, I have this food for children of Israel, not for the dogs. In Matthew chapter 8, there's a Roman centurion who asked Jesus to come to his house and heal his servant. Now, he knows a little bit about Jesus. He has an idea of who Jesus is because he says, hey, I know who you are. I'm not worthy to have you come to my house, right? But I know this. I'm a man in authority, and you're a man in authority, and I know that if you'll just say the word, this could happen. But in every one of those cases, Jesus initially says no, or basically he puts them off, and he just kind of We don't know. It just, again, it seems out of character for what we know about Jesus, right? Why does he do it? Why does he always put them off? Here's the answer. The answer is always love. He puts them off out of love. It seems on the surface like, well, that's not loving Jesus, not to just say, yes, I'll do it. But he puts them off out of love. It's necessary to put them off to get them to a greater understanding of who he is, to move them from reasoning. I heard you can do these miracles, right? To move them from reasoning to faith and to trust. So he delays it a little bit, right? To move them from reasoning to trusting. If Jesus simply heals this Roman official's son, there's no faith. The son will get better, right? But we will see here in a minute, Jesus wants to do so much more than that, so he delays it. If all Jesus does is this kind of magic trick, hey, abracadabra, your son's healed, go back to him now. Or I'll go with you, right? And I'll say the words over him, and then maybe I'll put my hands on him and he'll be healed. Again, it's just simply a thing. Jesus did a thing, but there's no trust involved in it. Because Jesus didn't want to just heal that man's son. He didn't just want to heal that man's son's body. Jesus wants to heal that entire family, body and soul. But he's got to get that man to the right place to do that. So Jesus basically says no the first time, right? What he says is, you people, unless you see signs and wonders. Here's what Jesus is really saying to that man, and what he's really saying to us too. He's saying, you don't want me. What you really want are the things I can do for you. You want the bread, you want the fish, you want the miracles, but you don't want me for who I am. And Jesus knows that that Roman official is there. He wants the miracle, but he doesn't really want Jesus at this point. And so the greater love here is not just to heal the man's son, it's to move that man from a position of reasoning to a position of trusting and of faith. Because real life-giving faith comes when we move to that point where we want and love Jesus for who he is, not what he can just do for us. If all you want from Jesus are the things he can do for you, that's idolatry. You're worshiping the created, not the creator. Okay? And so that's what Jesus is doing here. He's saying, we got to get you off of that and move you over here. Think about it. Take your life, for example. If you've got a main squeeze in your life, or maybe you had a main squeeze in your life, significant other, okay? Think about how that relationship started, right? When you first met them. It was all about what you got from them. I'm not talking about flowers or perfume or anything like that. You know, Sheila used to bribe me to go out with her with Bavarian cream-filled donuts, but I'm just kidding. She never did that. I can be bribed with Bavarian cream-filled donuts, but she didn't have to do that. So, no, you go out with them initially because how they make you feel, right? That's why your relationship continues after that initial kind of dating period, right? It's what you get from them. It is a self-esteem issue. It's how they make you feel. Maybe you were in a relationship with someone, or you're in a relationship with someone now, and you've got it bad, man. They make you feel all warm and squishy inside and everything, right? I'm not talking about that, although that is part of it. I'm talking about how they make you feel about yourself, right? That self-esteem aspect of it. When you're with your significant other, and you're like, yeah, that's right. It's me right here, right? I can do this, okay? I remember when Sheila and I were dating. I'm still proud of her, right? But I was super glad to go out in public with her. I think that's why I like to go out to eat so much with her. It's just because I want people to see, this is my wife right here, right? So, in other words, what makes that person attractive to you are the benefits that you get out of it. But if that relationship's going to last, it's got to move beyond that point, right? You got to get beyond how they make you feel to the point where you really love them for who they are. Okay, regardless of how they look, what job they have, whatever those things are that were initial benefits to you, you got to get to that point where you love them for who they are. And so it's the same with Jesus, right? He's trying to move that Roman official and us, maybe you today, from the things he can offer you to who he is for you. But the Roman official, he doesn't take no for an answer. In verse 49, here's what happened. The royal official said, "Sir, come down before my child dies." "Go," Jesus replied, "your son will live." So this second response of Jesus was actually harder than the first one. You know, the first one, again, seemed like he was putting him off, but it wasn't a no and it wasn't a yes. So there was a chance, right? Hey, this could still work out for the royal official. All the father had to do was keep asking, which he did. At that point, it was still in his control. If I can just say the right words, if I can convince Jesus to come with me back to my house in Capernaum, I think this could work. It's in his control at that point. But when Jesus says, go, your son will live, suddenly everything's out of his control. Because his plan was, I'm going to bring Jesus to my house. And then Jesus is going to do his thing, whatever he has to do, right, to make my son well. Well, now, how can my son be well if Jesus doesn't come with me? Everything's out of his control now. And that's a lesson for us, right? You can have control or you can have faith, but you can't have both. Okay? You can have control, you can have faith. And this is a prime example of that. See, if Jesus was some kind of magician or faith healer, then it would have required him to go with that man. I got to go there. I got to say the magic words. I got to rub the magic beans. I got to, do whatever a faith healer does to make that happen. He has to go there. But when Jesus says, you go, I'm staying here, there's faith required in that now because he's not coming with the man. That Roman official, again, first approached Jesus. Come with me. Now, Capernaum was about 20 miles from Cana, okay? The average person walks about 4 to 5 miles an hour. You can do the math. How long would that take? Maybe you can't do the math. It's about 4 or 5 hours, I'm pretty sure, okay? So it's not like, it's just around the corner. It's a pretty good walk to get there. But Jesus says, no, you go without me. I'm staying here. There's faith involved there. Because the man went thinking, what have I got to lose? Jesus comes to my house, he does his thing, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but at least I tried. Now he is, in a sense, though, returning empty-handed. I'm not bringing Jesus with me. I went and talked to him, and he said, you got to go back, your son's healed. Imagine that walk, okay? It's a 4 to 5 hour walk. That had to have been the longest walk in that man's life because he's thinking, should I have been firmer with Jesus? Should I have argued with him, right? Could I have thrown a fit? Maybe he would have come with me then. Is he really who everyone says he is? Is my son really going to be healed when I get back? Because I want my son to live. Man, did I do enough? That's the self-talk that's going on. For 4 hours on his walk back to his home, his faith was being tested. Because again, Jesus, in love, was moving him from reasoning to faith. See, Jesus deliberately made it hard for him. Jesus knew how far Capernaum was. He said, go. When you get there, your son will be well. But you'll have 4 to 5 hours to think about it. You'll have 4 to 5 hours to decide, is that what you really want? Do you really believe that I could do that? Do you think that I am the people who people say I am? Do you think I'm the Son of God? So instead, he sends him home alone. Life-giving, saving faith needs to be like pure gold. Now, any jewelry makers in the room? No? Okay. Sometimes there are. Unrefined gold's about 75% pure. When you refine it, you can get it to about 99% pure. You probably know this, but maybe you don't. Gold is refined in fire, right? So they take the gold, they put it in a super hot fire, and the fire basically burns away all the impurities in the gold. There's a bunch of other stuff in there, but some of the things that get burned away are copper and silver and iron. Those are all good things, but they make the gold impure. And so the fire burns away these seemingly good things that are really impurities. They keep the gold from being pure. Life-giving faith grows pure and strong in the furnace, becomes pure, just like the gold does, right? Do you know how they refine gold today? Basically the same thing. They put it in a thing called a crucible, which is like this super fireproof kind of pot-like thing, and then they put it in a fire. But it's not enough that they put it in the fire. They blow chlorine gas over the fire to make it super, super hot. Now, Maybe you know a little bit about chlorine gas. Unprotected exposure to chlorine gas will kill you, okay? So there's some danger involved in refining gold, right? Getting it to its purest form could kill you if you're exposed to that chlorine gas. But if the refiner knows what they're doing, then no one dies. You get purer gold, okay? So it is with our faith, right? Our faith is refined in the fire. Our faith, life-giving, saving faith, is refined in the fire. The impurities in our faith, the doubts in our faith get burned away. And sometimes when you're going through the fire, you feel like you're going to die. Okay? I've been there before, and if you've been walking with Jesus, you've probably been there before. As you walk through that refiner's fire, you think, how do I come out of the end of this alive? How do I come out of this better? Jesus, right? But here's what we know. We can trust this refiner. He's not going to kill us. He's going to make us pure. Our faith will come out better at the end of it. Here's how the Apostle Peter said it. He said, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious faith than gold that perishes, though it is tested by the fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. I wonder where Peter learned that about faith. He probably observed as Jesus dealt with all these people and said, yes, I'm gonna answer your request, but I'm going to do so much more than that. I'm going to grow your faith in the fire. Now, later in this official, we learn that as he goes home, some of his other servants meet him there. Okay, so this is our third point. Faith saves by its object and not by its quality. Okay, faith saves by the object of the faith, not by the quality of your faith. So as the official's walking home on his 4 to 5 hour walk, some of his servants come from his house in Capernaum and they meet him. They say, hey, your son is getting better. He's going to live. And the official says, wow, it's just like Jesus said. Hey, about what time did he start getting better? And they tell him, it was around 1 in the afternoon. And then in verse 53, then the father realized that this was the exact time at which Jesus had said to him, your son will live. So he and his whole household believed. Now, do you think that man left Jesus to walk home and thought, oh, this is a dumb deal. It's a slam dunk, right? Jesus said it, it's going to happen. No, he had doubts, and we would have had doubts too, right? He's walking home, that longest walk of his life, wondering, is my son going to be alive when I get there? To top it all off, this man's a Roman, right? They were pagans. They had many, many, many gods. And here's how the Romans viewed the gods. They're crazy. You know how they be. Maybe they're going to do it or maybe they're not going to do it, but the gods decide everything. And so he, in his mind, if he thought, well, Jesus is the Son of God, it probably plays out like my Roman gods. I don't know if this is going to happen or not because you never can tell with the gods. But he hears about this Jewish rabbi who some people say, that man's the Son of God. He is the Messiah, the person that we've been waiting for. And he thinks, I love my son, right? And I've heard this guy can do this, but I have some doubts. I'm not sure who he really is. Again, it is the object of our faith. It's not the quality of our faith that saves you. Don't be fooled into thinking, right, that you have to have this incredible supernatural faith for God to save you or rescue you, right? All you have to do is cling to Jesus and trust in him. He is the object of your faith, and it's his power. It's not the power of your faith. It's his power that will save you. It's his power that will rescue you. How much faith did this man need for his son to live and for his whole family to be saved? He needed just enough to walk home. It's not a lot. So clearly, it wasn't the quality of his faith, but it was the object of his faith. His faith, though, connected him to the power of Jesus. He had to have faith in the right object, in the person of Jesus Christ. He had to believe that Jesus was going to do what he said he was going to do. In Mark chapter 8, we see the story of a man who comes to Jesus. And again, he asks Jesus, hey, will you heal my son? And he says, if you can do something, please do it. And Jesus says, if, don't you know that all things are possible through faith? And the man says this, he says, I'm trying to believe. Help my unbelief. Saying, I'm trying to believe, help my unbelief, is belief. It is faith. Admitting that you have doubts, admitting that you're struggling in your faith is faith in and of itself, because you're going to the one who can fix it and say, I got this issue with my faith. Can you help it? That is the clearest statement of faith. But you're going to the right object, right? You're not putting your hope and your trust in the quality of your faith. You're putting in the object of your faith. The man, our Roman official, he goes home, and here's what he finds out. He finds out that Jesus loved him. He knows that Jesus loved him because he gets home and his son, whom he loved, is healed. And because of that, his whole family is saved, right? He had evidence that Jesus loved him because his son was saved. We have greater evidence. If you have any doubts about whether or not God loves you and sees you and cares for you, you have greater evidence than that. We just look at the cross, right? We look at the cross to know that we are loved and that we are rescued and we've been saved. See, a son wasn't saved for us to prove that. A son was lost for us to prove that. So we look at the empty cross. God did that so that we could come to him and know that our requests are heard. That through our faith in Jesus Christ, that is enabled, that is empowered by grace, that we can come to our Maker. We can come to the one that knows us best and know that our prayers are heard. It's not based on the amount of our faith, but it's based on the object of our faith. Jesus, right, can save us because the Father didn't save the Son on the cross. God did that we might be saved. We didn't earn it. We don't deserve it. It is a gift of grace from God. And it's that grace that enables us to step into newness of life, right? It is newness of life that awaits us here and now. Yes, heaven is on the other side, but you can have newness of life here today in this place by putting your faith, your hope, and your trust in Jesus. Got to move from reasoning to faith. Let me pray for us.